Death Note is one of the single greatest pieces of entertainment that I've ever watched. The show is complex. The characters in it have a great character arc, which goes throughout the entire series. Not the movie. The movie's shit. I'm going to give you two perspectives. One is my personal perspective as a fan of Death Note, and one just from a movie making aspect on why this movie fails. I do have one great thing to say about it though. William Dafoe, perfectly cast as Ryuk. He does a great job in his voice acting, and just the overall menace of his character is really good. I enjoyed him in the movie. And also the soundtrack isn't too bad, but it makes no sense to me why this 80s pop rock music is in this movie at all. It doesn't fit the tone. I don't get it. So as a fan of the show, I have to ask myself, first of all, why the 80s theme teen drama going on here? It has that feel of like a 1980s teen drama. And as someone who's watched Death Note, that makes no sense. It just doesn't make sense. I don't know how to describe it other than that. Also, the difference in the characters are a main issue for me as a fan. Light is not popular. He's not some genius intellectual guy. In the show, in the show, he's this athletic genius character, and in this movie, it's a guy who's just a normal teenager. He does homework for other people. He's not popular. He's kind of like an emo kid. It's just the polar opposite of what the character is. There's no time in this show where he does anything that would make me think he's a genius intellect. Maybe just averagely smart, which is not the character of Light. Also, they changed his family aspect. I'm not going to go into spoilers here, but in the show he has a mom, dad, sister, and they all are just like a normal loving family. His dad's a police officer, and they all live happily. In the movie, that's not the case. Now, I understand maybe some creative decisions went into this to make it a little more dramatic and give the characters a little more meat to work with, but the show does that on its own. The show is just a better representation of all these characters. So I don't agree with what they did here, changing the whole way the family works. Now, I'm not a stickler for swearing in a movie. If it works, it works. Goodfellas, it works. But this movie, they drop a lot of F-bombs, and I don't understand why. It seemed really unnecessary. It seemed forced. So when it's good swearing, I'll accept it. But it's just out of place here. I don't. It just makes no sense. Also, Mia or Misa, the same character, but she's completely different in this. She's a cheerleader. She's popular. It's her whole character is just completely different. They literally made this show just a sappy teenage drama, and that's what I hate about it. Because Death Note the show is one of my favorite all-time shows. It's up there with Game of Thrones, Walking Dead, Breaking Bad to me. It's one of the most popular and complex things. And this movie just took all its characters and shit on it. So from a movie-making aspect, and not talking as a fan of the show, I'm going to tell you why it sucks too. The first point I have to make is probably the most obvious point. I noticed it in 10 minutes of the movie. I actually paused it and looked, and at the 12-minute mark, I knew this was a problem already. It is rushed. The pacing is horrible. They just keep going and going and going and going. It feels like they cram 30 episodes into this first 15 minutes. I won't get into this show, but this whole pacing is just off. It's just like this happens, and this happens, then this happens, then this happens. There's nowhere for the characters to grow. There's nothing really told about them. It's just, it's so fast and nauseating. William Dafoe's portrayal as Ryuk was awesome, but the character himself was sloppily written. He's not in this as much as I would personally like, and he's just there to have a few lines, and he's in there to be there because he's in the show, and that's his character needs to be there. But he really doesn't help at all. Another thing is the rules for the book themselves are a little confusing. In the show, they do it a lot better. But yeah, it's just sloppy in this one with the rules as well. But I'm going to go back to this This pacing is horrible. The characters are meh. There's nothing to work with. They they do the light thing where he goes kind of good to evil, but in my opinion, doesn't even do that really. In the show, it's a much more big character arc throughout the whole series, and this is just sort of touched on. Look, as a huge fan of Death Note, I was really disappointed with this movie. I'm giving it a 3 out of 10. I didn't like it. I was talking to a friend of mine who is also a fan of Death Note. He didn't like it. I didn't like this movie. It looked great. Visually, it was impressive. Ryuk's design was impressive. But pacing, characters, the weird 80s soundtrack, the feel of a teenage drama going on, it didn't hold up. Somewhere in here is a good movie, but the story itself it's the show. Go watch the show. If you've never seen the show, do yourself a favor, watch the show. It is a million times better than this. I didn't like this movie. All right, so there's me ripping into Death Note. Finally done with it. I'm never gonna watch it again. Hopefully, didn't like it. 3 out of 10. Thanks. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. See you guys next time. Bye.